Have you ever imagined yourself coming out on stage in front of thousands to promote your topic, product, or service? Perhaps the sheer thought of performing in front of many terrifies you to the point of hiding yourself away from events, collaborations, and opportunities to spread your message far and wide. But then again, you know that participating in events is an extremely powerful way to gain visibility, authority, and reaching bigger masses. But you're not really sure how to get unstuck from the fear and create a compelling keynote speech that sparks curiosity in people's hearts, as well as inspire them to take action. Creating a fantastic keynote speech is the core of being able to show yourself as a leader, to present your expertise and become memorable in your audience's mind. But having it nailed down gives you a boost of confidence, opens up the doors to multiple opportunities, as well as allows you to grow your business by using parts of it in your social presence, presentations, or programs. If a keynote speech is something you need and want to create for your business, or if you're thinking of a speaking career, you really love today's episode, as I'll be chatting to Julia Langley, a keynote speaking trainer for speakers and entrepreneurs. Julia has left her career as a singer in Cirque de Solei, took all her knowledge and experience from this wildly recognizable brand, and transferred it to helping people improve their speaking skills on physical as well as virtual stages to help them increase their authority and recognition. Julia herself performed on stages in over 20 different countries and all 50 states in the United States. And she's here today to share some of her tips and tricks to becoming a better speaker. Welcome back to Habits of Influence, a podcast for entrepreneurs by entrepreneurs, where we discuss the good, the bad, and the ugly sides of entrepreneurship and building a movement.
Everything that happens is motivation.
Julia, it's such a pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you for coming over.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to be here today to share my story and my passion and my service to others as well. And that's what really drives me. So I was very excited to have this conversation with you.
And oh my gosh, when I saw your application, that the one that you have to fill out before you come on the show, and I saw Cirque du Soleil, and me having a background in performing, I know how absolutely astounding of a brand that is and how difficult it is to get there. So I felt like, oh my gosh, I need to have her on. I need to find out more.
Yes, people see circus and they thought that, they're like, wait, that's what I want to hear about. There's so many different things that we can talk about today, but you're not the only way. Everyone wants to hear about the circus. And quite honestly, it is as mysterious and interesting as you think. There's so many stories that I have. And I often say, which is going to be, keep your eye open in the next year or so, I'm going to release a book actually on this, the Chronicles of the Circus, behind the curtain, behind the stage.
Ooh, we need to get you back on the show then, remember?
Because sometimes it's way more interesting in what's on the stage, I have to be honest with you.
It's the mysterious, it's the veil of, mystery behind Cirque du Soleil and what happens there and how do people get there. I think that's what's so compelling, I think, to everybody.
Well, it is. And, Cirque du Soleil has really taken the whole idea of circus and they just took it to another level. So in modern days, people look at the circus and they think Cirque du Soleil, they think modern, they think all this music, but it really has its roots in like the late 1800s, back to the days of Barnum and Bailey, the weird circus where they found all the macabre and unusual and they brought it into the circus. So roots really go back that far, and I've worked with a lot of people in the cast with me who have generations of family in the circus.
Wow.
Like 10 generations of circus performers, 7, and then they marry each other and then they have their own generations of circus performers.
Oh my gosh.
So it is really, it's not just the modern version. It really incorporates a lot of nationalities, a lot of countries, and a lot of history as well.
So is the performance factor what inspired you to kind of transition into what you are doing right now? Because you train people essentially, speaking is a form of performance on stage. Is that something that kind of inspired the journey? If you could talk a little bit about how you got here to where you are today, and how all the things that you could take from Cirque du Soleil could have transferred and made you a better trainer in speaking.
Absolutely. There is a bit of a story there. 18 years I worked with Cirque du Soleil, traveling all over the world. And in 2019, I had an accident. I was riding high. I was at the top of my game, touring. When I was home, I was living in South Florida, boating, bike riding, swimming in the ocean every day. I mean, living large, right? And seriously, I was living it up. And I took my car in one day to get the oil change. I jumped on my bike to go get coffee. And on that trip to go get coffee, I got hit by a Jeep in the middle and left in the middle of the street. And it wasn't just a tap, like I was hurt really bad and I almost died from it. And I had a spinal cord injury and 5 broken bones and a double head injury, and then multiple surgeries. So we're looking at 4 since then, with my last surgery actually being last year. That was in 2019. So, and it was early in the year, so it sort of knocked me out of working a lot during the year. I was convalescing, really trying to just to figure out how to go when you're in tip-top shape, which I actually think saved my life, which is a whole nother conversation. Thank goodness that I was fit. I was working out with the performers, the athletes every day, world-class Olympic gymnasts and acrobats, and you got to keep up or at least try. So I was in great fitness and great health, and that really saved my life in that accident. But there was a lot of time. After I came out of that, we went straight into the pandemic. 2020, of course, and that hit everybody in the world. And of course, we, as entertainers, were the first to go and the last to come back, and which is hard. It's hard being there, but we were all let go. And at that point in my time, I'd been there 18 years, and I thought, what's the next step for me? What am I looking at for my future? So I look at the pandemic as a time it really helped me take a step back, take some time to really look at where I wanted to go in the future of my career, what my life's purpose and passion was, and how I could take all of my knowledge and turn it into something great and something big. And of course, my life's purpose is really service. And I've had over, at least in my life, 20,000 hours of stage time in my life. And when you think about that, being on stage that much, you learn, there's so much you learn from that they don't show you in a book or a manual, or and sometimes it's counterintuitive to what you think it should be, and so taking all of that knowledge, I know that there's so many people out there that want to step out onto the stage, whether it be as a performer for Cirque or Broadway, they want to get up on Broadway, or be on television, or maybe they're a keynote speaker, they're a CEO, or they're a project manager in their company, and they want to stand up. But the fact of the matter is that 15 million people every single day suffers from some form of stage fright or fear when it comes to speaking up, to using their voice. Well, this is my wheelhouse right here.
This is jam.
And it's just really a natural progression for me. So as I started moving out of the pandemic and into the next phase of my career and what I wanted to do, this is where it led me, and getting in alignment with that next phase. So here I am. Now, here we are, 3 years out of well, really not 3 years, but okay, year and a half, 2 years out of the pandemic now. And I couldn't be happier. I work with people all over the world. So internationally, I've spoken in Morocco and Spain in the last year. So I'm still continuing to be all over the world, working with people from all over the world, but really helping them. And just to kind of put the cherry on the top of what I'm saying here, I was in a call last week or the week before, and someone said to me, Julia, what is it do you love what you do? What is it do you love? Because I know you were a performer. Do you love it? So I took some time and I stepped back and I'm like, I really want to think about this before I answer this question. Do I love it? I know I like it. Do I love it? What I realized was that I absolutely love watching people become more confident and rise. That's what I like to see when they discover that part of themselves that has something to offer, that people want to listen to, something to give to the world. They realize that you can see the light go off in their eyes. They're like, wait a minute, this is me. I can do this. Yes, you can. And then they step into it and they just go, woo, and they take off. That for me as a coach, it's my why, and it motivates me to get up every day and to continue to do what I do. I love it. So
That's
yes,
fantastic. That's
I love
fantastic.
it.
Because you do see people like open up certain layers of themselves that they even themselves didn't know they had in them, right? And I remember, like I told you, I was a performer myself, so I did perform on stages as a dancer. And I remember the first few times I did go out on stage, it was insanely stressful. It was stressful to the point that I don't remember those performances. I remember getting from behind the curtain and then going behind the curtain. Those are the only two moments that I remember from. I have absolutely no idea what happened on the stage. So this is so this is absolutely needed. And you are specifically helping people with keynotes, and you did use the word keynote. I'm sure that majority of our listeners who are entrepreneurs know what a keynote speech is, but if you could explain a little bit to anybody who doesn't know what a keynote speech is, and what makes a keynote increase your authority, showcase your expertise, and how does it generally help?
Well, this is thought leadership. A keynote is really thought leadership. Now you can kind of transfer that into presentations or job interviews or anything. If you can give a keynote, you can do that as well. But let's talk specifically, like you said, about the keynote in general. That is thought leadership. So you have to be able to formulate a message and clarity, and be able not only to formulate it and to write it, to be able to execute it and to reach your audience. All right. So there is also a difference in execution and actually connection. All right. So all of these elements are very important. So you're taking a message that you truly believe in, a thought or an idea that you have that's new, that's different, and you want to share it with as many people as possible. And I know that there are a lot of people out there. I've come across them as entrepreneurs that have these amazing ideas inside of them, this amazing experience, like I had with Cirque de Solei. They have years of this, and they really want to get up on this stage. And you can use that in so many different ways. For example, someone who is looking to enroll clients, speaking is the fastest way to do that. Someone to increase your income, speaking is the fastest way to do that. Someone that's trying to sell, there's speaking for that as well. So
definitely a lot of speaking.
Absolutely. I mean, so you're increasing your income, you're increasing your client enrollment, but most of all, you're increasing your authority. So people will go to you when they want to know about a topic. They think, well, you need to talk to my friend because she speaks on this. When you want to talk to somebody about speaking, call Julia Langley, that kind of thing, that's really what you want. And that's what speaking can do for you, what a keynote or a well-prepared keynote can do for you.
Mm-hmm. So essentially, just to wrap up for our listeners, this is the most important thought idea behind of what it is that you offer. And you did mention, and I did mention in my intro as well, that you can actually take parts of the keynote or transfer certain elements of the keynote into other areas of your business, like presentations, like sales. How do people go about this so that they understand how important it is to have that message nailed down and how that transforms into all of the other parts? Because you're not going to take the whole keynote, right, and just put it in a webinar, for example. It's just certain elements that you use. Which would you say are the most important elements that you need to focus on when creating a keynote that could be transferable into other parts of your business?
Well, the first thing that you have to know, and it is who your audience is. That's number one, hands down, straight. Okay, so if you have an audience of, well, I'm doing a training. Okay, I'm doing a training come up. My entire audience is people of tech in the technology world. these people are very different than creative, like, frontman for Cirque. Very different personalities, very different needs. All right. And so that's what the bottom line is. Well, understanding what your audience's needs are, what they want. Are you there for pure entertainment? Are you there for value? Are you there to get clients? You have to understand who that audience is, and then you have to provide to them what it is they need. Because if you're talking to them about something they don't need, you're not going to be successful, period, hands down, if you're not relevant to your audience. So that is the number one value. It is actually the number one mistake that speakers and performers straight across the board make, is not understanding the material and how they execute it to whom the audience is in front of them. I actually it's funny, I had a conversation this morning with a client of mine. We had this very conversation. You have to understand what this, and she's actually a performer, but you have to understand what you're performing to. You can't use this arrangement. You have to use this. So if you're in sales, there's a technique versus a technique if you're just in thought leadership. So it's different techniques. And this is all part of the learning process of learning how to execute in the way that your audience. This is where a great coach can come in actually and help you, because you can read about it all day long, but really understanding what makes that connection special between you and your audience and providing what it is they need.
And I think that this is the key word here, the connection, because a great keynote speech, as opposed to the average keynote speech, is going to move the listener, right? It's going to make them do the nodding when you speak to them. The nodding is just like the first indicator that you see, one, it is being understood, two, it is being received. And you speak a lot about the way how you conduct the keynote speech. And this is my next question, actually. How do we take an average keynote speech? Because bear in mind, you can have a brilliantly written keynote speech, right? You can even memorize it fantastically. But what makes that performer or that speaker stand out from another who's got equally as good of a keynote speech, but doesn't know how to conduct himself?
Well, first of all, this is an individual's unique style, individuality. I think that this personally boils down to authenticity and bringing out a person's unique qualities. Okay. And this is something this is one of my core values actually in my coaching program that I do. It's to work with people, not a cookie cutter. Like I don't hand you a guide and say, okay, this is persuasive speaking, this is motivational. It's not like that. All right. Because when you get up there, you have to make yourself vulnerable. So you want that audience to see what it is that makes you shine. All right. And pull that out and put that forward, and take your weaknesses, things that aren't so good about yourself, and bring those back. Okay. So this is very important. So it's the same thing in life. Let's just use, for example, the Beatles. The Beatles had a hit song. Anybody else that sang that song that the Beatles sang wouldn't have been a hit. Bob Dylan. If I go sing a Bob Dylan song, I can tell you right now, it's not. Bob Dylan had his specialness about him. All right. These iconic performers were unique, and they were able to sell that because of who they were and that uniqueness. So what you have to do is, it's important to have a well-written keynote speech, but it's even more important to adapt that to the individual. Because if that were the case, now with this new AI, you just go get your computer to write your speech for you and you stand up and you give it.
Yes.
That is why AI will never replace human beings, because you don't have relatability.
Hopefully, it depends on where it goes. I'm always thinking, what
This
if
is
they learn?
A whole nother conversation we could get. We'll talk about this. But I believe, and people are talking, they hate AI. I don't hate it. I really think it's an amazing tool, but it can't replace connection between people. It can't. And if you read things that AI creates at this point, you can tell it's computer generated if you really know what you're looking for. Like I look at a lot of writing and a lot of messaging and a lot of delivery. And I know I can identify what AI has had a hand in and what it hasn't. All right. So let me just say that. Yeah, you get found out. Also, in the delivery, there's a lack of passion there. So you have to own what you're saying. All right. There has to be an ownership in that. But to me, the really special part in giving the keynote is the individual itself. It's the person and their ability to show who they really are, and their thoughts and their passions and their compassion and their beliefs and their dreams and values. And that is how you really relate to your audience.
And you said something very powerful whilst you were speaking about it, because it's about that emotional aspect. That's fair enough. But you did mention a few keywords, meaning vulnerability, authenticity. But at the same time, you said it's about not bringing attention to your weaknesses. And I think that's what a lot of people do get wrong, especially in the entrepreneurial world, where authenticity is kind of being morphed into that throwing out the dirt type of vulnerability, which is not completely. Authenticity has nothing to do with that. I think there's such a misunderstanding of what authenticity is. It's providing the space for people to be able to see who you are and be receptive to who you are, rather than just telling a sob story or throwing all of your dirt onto everybody and just thinking, hey, this is me being vulnerable and authentic. So what would you say to that?
Well, I agree with you 100%. And I was actually journaling this morning about this very topic, about taking authenticity. It's like if you've got a car and that car is like going too fast. And what you're talking about is that car being out of control, right? You're just throwing it all up against the wall. And just because, so what that is to me is really not an understanding of what authenticity is. It's hard to be authentic sometimes, especially when you're standing up in front of 2,000 people, all right? You don't want them to see who you're afraid, because there's a chance someone's not going to like you. There's not a chance. It's a given. Someone else is not going to like you. All right. Someone's going to comment or say something negative because they're just in a bad mood, or they're just grumpy and that's who they are. But we don't want to put ourselves out there and open ourselves up to that. So it's not easy to be authentic. So learning to be authentic is more than just throwing out a buzzword and saying, I am who I am, and you have to live with that. No.
Is those motivational quotes that come to mind immediately? If you don't like me at my worst, you're not going to appreciate me, whatever the bollocks that is being perpetuated. So come on.
Yeah, that's not, I agree with you. You're simplifying something it's a lot more. I saw a meme one time that's what people think healing is, but what healing looks like. And it's the same thing with authenticity. These buzzwords that people throw out, it's not easy to get them, but it's possible to get them if you start to understand what it means to be vulnerable and be okay when someone doesn't like you.
And be okay with the fact that people don't like you, and still keep on going on the same track because you are actually true to your values, right? And just thinking, yeah, I'm still going to be myself. I still believe what I believe. I'm so sorry that I hurt your precious feelings, but
as long as you're doing as good as you can and as good as you know how to do, this is what I always say. We're talking about uniqueness, weaknesses, and strengths. I own this quote actually, but you have to know who you are. You have to know who you are not. And you got to be okay with both of them. You got to come to terms with that. And that, to me, is what true authenticity is. When I was young, I thought I could do anything, sing anything, go anywhere. That's a sign of immaturity. As I've gotten older, I know what my limitations are a little bit more. I still fight them sometimes, but I find that now I know what I'm strongest at. And I really go for that which makes me unique, special, that makes me stand out. And that is true. To me, that's true authenticity. And I have my mentor was a Broadway producer. He won Tonys and produced 18 Broadway shows in 12 years. He was an amazing human being. And he said to me that the one thing that stuck with me, and he was using it in terms of acting, he said that you can lie up on the stage and you can cry and you can beat your fists on the stage, but if no one in the audience feels the emotions you're feeling, then you haven't done your job as an actor. The same thing goes for speaking. You can out there, like you said, throw it all out there. I'm this and that. But if you're doing that, then you're certainly not connecting with your audience.
Because you're eye-centric, aren't you? You're not really focused on your audience. You are focused so deeply on yourself. And we inherently as people, we just want to be seen, right? So that's every member of the audience, that's what they're expecting. They don't want to hear about you. So, okay, fair enough. You've got a story. Great. Oh my God, I feel sorry, or I feel happy for you, whatever, but I'm not really interested in exploring this journey with you further. And I think it's so important in business as it is in public speaking, isn't it? Is that connection, is that even the impression of making your audience members feel that, hey, this is said to me personally. You are telling me that story. You are telling me that lesson. I'm supposed to take away something out of it. Is that what it is?
That's exactly what it is. And I will say this, you know, and I can relate this kind of to a song. You sing a song or you give a speech. Every single person in that audience is going to walk away with something different from it. Hand you a book, they read it, what they get out of it, it's going to blow your mind, because you get this. This is a love story with me and my ex-boyfriend or my ex-husband, whatever, you know, and the people in the audience are going, oh, it made me think of my dad. You know, like, you don't know how people are, how they are relating, but the point is that they are relating. The point is the connection. And it's not going to be just like you or just like the person sitting next to them.
Absolutely.
But again, they need to feel something positive, something emotional, I think, is a better way. Moved. They need to be moved.
I love that. I love that. And you didn't mention that there are certain techniques. Obviously, there are certain techniques. There's a lot of coaches, trainers of speakers, some very well known, others maybe less. And they do have, like, that's what they teach precisely, right? This is this technique, this is that technique, that's how to do this. Those are the steps 1, 2, 3, ABC. Do you see that there are certain misconceptions in your industry, and something that perhaps you find slightly annoying, something that is unnecessary but is being perpetuated or taught, something that you would like to change?
Well, the biggest thing, and we've really touched on this already, is the cookie cutter thing that I see, that this is the way, this is the way, this is the way. All right. And true artists and I use the word artists, and creatives, I think, would be a better way. Creatives or entrepreneurs. True creatives and entrepreneurs are different. Like, you don't want to be like anybody else. And you also have to remember that what works for them doesn't always work for you. So particularly if you're looking to enroll clients or you're looking to make sales, you really have to take who you are and kind of marry that with the guides, if you will, you know. So there's this conception that it will happen in a week or two, and I see that a lot as well. You know, when you say get there faster, it means get there faster than 10 years. It's not gonna happen.
Oh my God, I'm so glad that you're actually talking about this, because I don't think I've ever heard one speaking trainer say this. It's immediately, I'm going to get you a TED talk tomorrow, I'm going to put you on, you know, a university stage in a week, this and that, and you're going to go into, like, it doesn't work like this.
It doesn't. And quite honestly, it can undermine you and undermine anyone that's stepping on. If you get up on a stage and you're not ready, it can be the worst experience of your life. And it can make you not ever want to get up there again. And that is the truth. You get up there, you bomb, you know, and here's the thing. I am a proponent of doing to learn. I'm big time. All of my clients do, but there are certain things that you have to be ready for. All right. You have to be prepared for. So I make sure that when I do have a client that's getting up with something big and they need to get up and they need to give a speech, that they're actually prepared mentally and with their skill set too, but they have to be in the right place for it, because it's not easy under the easiest of circumstances. It's still something that takes focus and repetition.
Yeah.
And time. So yeah, I do believe that a coach can help you get there faster. So this is not to say that don't, because if you try to do all this on your own, and the biggest thing is in the speaking world and the performing world, quite often we don't know what we don't know. So we see ourselves one way and the audience is seeing us completely different. This is what I run into. So from that standpoint, coaches are great. But a good coach is going to make sure you're ready before they throw you to the wolves.
And now I'm thinking from my, my marketing mind never shuts off. It's taking even a step back before you are even ready to be able to, obviously learn how to pose yourself, how to intonate your voice, how to prepare a keynote speech. You need to be in complete clarity of who you are. So it takes a while, first of all, to knowing yourself and what your message is and what it is that you want to convey and why do you want to convey this in the first place? Why is it important? So there's a massive amount of steps before we are even able to be put in front of a speaking coach, let's say, and do all the things that would prepare us to be on those stages, right? Because like you said, if you go out there and it tanks, oh my God. And also there's a footprint about it. So it's going to follow you over and over and over. Now, especially in this world, right? Everything is recorded.
Oh, everything. Or it ends up on the internet.
There's no way to avoid it. So let's say that you kind of build a little bit of an audience online and then you decide to go on stage and then it tanks and then everybody sees it and then people will throw it out there so to remind everybody else of how much it's that. I know, but that's the way it is.
It's true. And here's something, I mean, that's the cost of giving a bad keynote. You're talking about the cost. And here's another cost. Let's say you're in sales or you're trying to enroll clients. And let's say you have a $10,000 program, right, that you want to sell. And if you look at the law of averages and how much you get, if you have 50 people in the room, 10 potential clients in there, and maybe so 10 potential clients, and you give a bad keynote, that's 10 people that could have bought from you for $10,000. You got a $100,000 problem. And if you do that 10 times, you have $1 million problem. It adds up really fast, particularly for people who are doing persuasive speaking or giving keynotes that are doing it to enroll clients, which a lot of people, that's what they want. They're looking to get exposure, gain authority, and raise their income at the same time. So you have a major problem, and you have a money problem on your hand now. Exactly. Even a step further, forgot getting something going viral with you doing it, saying something bad, but then you've lost $1 million on top of that.
And they say there is no, even bad publicity is publicity. Yes, to a certain degree, because if it does happen, then you're going to lose a lot of opportunities. Like you said, a lot of money, a lot of opportunities. So it's no longer the case that as long as they're talking, it's fine.
Yeah, that's right.
So if you would pinpoint one thing that a person that is maybe not a professional speaker, but is showing up, let's say on podcasts or running their own show, or I don't know, running webinars or selling to people, not on a professional physical stage, but let's say they're just doing it online. Is there anything specific that they can do right now to kind of like a super tip that could improve their speaking abilities at this very moment? So nothing complicated, something that can elevate the way that they present themselves.
Absolutely. Well, let's just talk about right now, sitting on the camera, and I'm very relaxed right now. But if you're in a proper situation, you actually want to turn your body quarter angled, like a 45 degrees, and then look back towards the camera. It gives
that's not my good angle.
Well, we all have one side that's better. This is not my good side. This is my better side right here. But then you look back towards the camera, and what it does is it gives you a leaner, longer body line, actually, and you sit up straighter while you're doing it. also looking at the camera, because we have a tendency to look at ourselves or look at the other person, and particularly when we're doing something online, and we want to make sure that we're watching wherever our camera is, because that's how you're reaching your audience when you're talking into your camera. So those are just a couple of tips right off the bat, particularly for people who are online. And I realize, here's tip number 3, I realize that we're in a world of au naturel, and that's great. You want to relate, but look nice. All right. I see so many people that roll out of bed, make an effort. It doesn't require much. And I'm not saying
it's like you were going to a job, right? You would never allow yourself to show up in your pajamas and slippers and probably for women, some women don't wear makeup. Okay, fair enough. But like I said, a little bit of effort. I know, brush your hair.
For sure. I mean, it's just amazing how people show up. Like, really, I've seen it. I'm like, oh, and I have had a few days of my own where I'm like, I'm late for my meeting. The hair goes up or whatever, and that happens. But at least I'm, I try to make myself look neat, and if I'm giving a keynote, you can bet your bottom dollar I'm going to be physically prepared for it. Not rolling out of bed to do it. So there's that. And
I think we're coming back, in here to that authenticity. It's like people that do that thing, like, oh, I'm just being my real self. If anybody, again, if they don't accept me, but that's not authenticity. Again, it's just you being plain batshit lazy and just not putting any effort and not treating people seriously, in my opinion, personal opinion.
I am so with you on that. And I love the laziness that goes, and you're justifying being lazy by saying everyone else has to like me for that. And that is not the case. No one has to like you. No one has to love what you say. No one has to love what you do. And that is honest to goodness truth. And not everyone's going to. Just period, point blank. We've touched on this already. But I think you're so right. The car is out of control when you're doing that. You're just letting it go off the rails. And I talk about this a lot too. I talk about balance is very important to me. And I don't mean balance that sits on a fulcrum, and because you hear so many people say, oh, balance is, so you can't be balanced. Balance is keeping it from going too far off the sides of the road, in my opinion. Okay.
It's the beauty of buzzwords, isn't it?
Yeah.
That don't mean anything nowadays.
Right. It's true though, keep it just self-check, right? Self-check. And ask yourself, how am I being, if someone else was coming out like this, how would I view them?
The nasty side of the internet is that, people actually, by thinking that, okay, I'm going to repel the wrong people, I'm going to attract the right ones because they will share the same values of me being authentic and bare and whatever, bearing my soul and my face and everything the way I am. But at the same time, they are losing out a lot of eyeballs, again, in my opinion, because we do tend to want to look at things and people that are nice. And however unfair that sounds, that's the way it is. So there's a huge chance that whatever valuable, beautiful, amazing, transformational message you might have, it's not going to be heard because a person online specifically is going to just scroll past you because you look like a piece of shit.
Because you rolled out of bed, didn't you? Because you didn't care. And if you don't care about the way you present yourself, why would anyone else want to work with you? Like, why would someone buy those services if you don't even care enough to fix your hair?
Yes.
And I'm going to look at that. If I want to work with someone, I want to look with someone that cares, that makes an effort. And it also goes back to doing your best. Because when you roll out of bed and you just come out, you're not doing your best. You could have gotten up 15 minutes earlier and that's your best.
Yeah. And it's relevant to every aspect of our lives, isn't it? It's not just about showing up on speaking or being online or being a public figure or in general life, in day-to-day situations. You might go to work and you might just sit on your phone all day and watch reels and memes and stuff like that, or you can give your 100%, 200% in whatever it is that you're doing. Relationships, same thing. Family life, same thing, right? It's about that effort that we put. And there's one thing that I wanted to speak to you about, because like kind of like brushing off of the topic we just mentioned. Someone would argue, okay, but then again, the attractive people are going to get more attention than the non-attractive people. No, it's not about looks. It's about, like you said, it's about the effort. It's about showing up as a professional rather than your natural predispositions that you don't have any influence on.
No, and I'm going to add to that confidence makes a big difference. So this is going to go back to what we were talking about in the beginning. You might not be a supermodel, that doesn't matter. And you might not be a size 2, and that doesn't matter either. What matters is that you hold your shoulders up and that you look the world square in the face, and that you actually have something to offer, that you've sat down and you've thought about it, and you've taken the time to do self-improvement and work. And you've actually looked into your topic and to your research, and you're wanting to put it out in the world, and you have a passion and a dream. These things come through when you're speaking, when you're presenting yourself. You can't fake it. You can't. You try, you might think you can, but you can see through it, right? And so that attraction that people feel toward another human being often is about confidence, ultimately.
There you go. Absolutely. Absolutely. It's that unapologetic nature, isn't it?
Absolutely. 100%.
So a lot of people do, I mean, like, this is the biggest fear, isn't it? Speaking and showing up, this is the biggest fear that people, according to statistics, that people have. So what is that journey looking like? Is there any steps? Are there any stages that people go through to get themselves to be a little bit more confident, or being able, what can they do to be able to tap into that energy of, okay, I'm that 1% a little bit more confident every so often, or I'm a little bit more assured within myself? Is there anything that you would say exists that people could do to assure themselves a little bit more, just like within, not even the way that they speak or what they speak, but just that inner feeling that they have?
Well, first of all, the things that we're talking about on camera, it starts with holding your shoulders up and looking the world in the eye. You have to do that. You have to start out, because they own it in your body. All right. So when you start making yourself hold your shoulders up, first of all, people are going to react to you differently, and you're going to see that, and that's going to spark a little bit of confidence in you. And I've seen it with people on stage. I'm not just talking off the cuff here. I'm thinking of one person in particular. I saw her walk across the stage, and I said, if you don't hold your shoulders back, I'm going to take you out of this number. This is when I was directing, and she got very upset with me, and she never slumped again after that. She came to me and said, thank you. And it's all the difference in the world, because she wouldn't look the world in the face, and she was uber talented, but no one saw it because no one looked at her, because she didn't hold her shoulders up. Uber talented, speaking. Now she's speaking in a lot of different places, but it was a terror in the beginning, So that starts with that, number one, because that starts to help you embody the confidence. The next thing is, when you are speaking, you start to engage in the speaking. The messaging is important, as we touched on, learning how there are skills and execution of it, how to connect with the audience. Learning those skills gives you confidence as well. Now, here's the thing about confidence. Confidence is a muscle. So it's just like going to the gym. And if you want to learn how to do a push-up, you got to start with a little baby push-up, right? If you've never done a push-up before, you're not going to go in there and do 20. All right. You're going to start with a poor excuse for a push-up. That's how it goes, guys. But if you don't ever start, you never get better. All right.
Absolutely.
So you do it. And then the next day you try it again, and you see a tiny bit of improvement, 1%. And you say, oh, well, that was not as hard. So let me try that again. And you do it. And then you start to take another risk. Okay, well, I was successful at that. And now let me try this. Somebody liked it. Okay, well,
let me keep on doing it.
Yes, and that confidence, it starts to grow. That's how it grows.
And this is so perfect. This is so brilliant, because I can totally relate. Like I told you in the beginning, my first performances were, I don't know what they were actually. I never will find out, probably. But yeah, it started like this. But as I was doing it, as I was maybe not forcing myself, but putting myself out there in those situations. It was then bigger stages and more people. Then I performed in front of 5,000 people, and I was completely fine with it. Maybe a little bit sweaty here and there, nervous, but it was a completely different story. I could start having fun with it. Same online, right? My first videos, they're hilarious to watch, actually. My first videos probably looked like, thank God that you can only see, waist up, because my hands were shaking terribly.
Right.
But you can actually hear it in the voice as well, right? In the way that people conduct themselves. Not really sure. It's like, am I saying, is it good? That doesn't anybody like it? But it took a few videos that I recorded just for myself, and I just put them in a drawer and never looked at them from then onwards. Not even, putting myself out live, but just recording. Like you said, that repetition. And it makes you more confident. It makes you want to do it more vibrantly, with more energy. You get assured with your message as well. And that is exactly what I think, you help people with. Is that correct?
It's exactly what I do. And I'll take them and say, this is what's good. This is what we need to work on. Let's improve this. Let's tweak this. Let's do this. Let's do this. So we're constantly making adjustments and little moves here and there that send you down a path, and you start to get a style. So not even just and style is not something you start with. Style is something that sort of emerges as you start to get, as a dancer, you know what I'm talking about. You start learning technique, and as you get into it, then you start learning what your style is. All right. So that's where it leads. Building of the confidence, getting that messaging, knowing what your passion is, and then you start to see it all unfold. And that's where creativity starts to take over. And people are like, this is my life. I mean, I've seen it so many times. This is my life. I love it. I don't ever want to do anything else. Like the people that just throw themselves down. They're like, this is it. So it's an amazing experience if you can take it, if you can challenge yourself, if you can take the struggles, and are willing to turn that microscope on yourself a little bit and to look at what, where you can improve, where you can get better.
Do you think that everybody can be a speaker, though? I'm a proponent that, we do have certain talents that we are really good at. And we have things that we are not necessary, no matter how much we train, no matter how much consistent we are. There are certain things that are just not for us. Do you think anybody can become a speaker? Or would you rather say that, okay, if you are good at talking, I always laugh, I like the sound of my own voice. That means you like talking, yeah?
Doesn't mean you're a good speaker, though. There's that too. And I've seen it all the time. Oh, so-and-so is so dramatic. They're a good actor. Doesn't translate. So-and-so is a talker. They'd be a great speaker. It doesn't translate all the time. So you can't make those kind of assumptions. To answer your question, I think that I can help anyone learn how to speak. I do believe that anyone can do it. Do I believe that everyone can be, I don't know, who am I going to throw out there? Tony Robbins? Yeah, whatever. Probably.
Listen Nichols.
There you go. Yeah. Not everyone's going to be that captivating. All right. Some people don't have it in them, and some people don't want to, they don't want to learn it, and that's fine. They just want enough to get by, and that's okay too. But I do think you can learn the skills.
Right.
You can learn the skills. You can get better at it. And I know some people that speak, and they would laugh if I called their name, because they're monotone. They're like, and they know they're not a good speaker, and they're like, whatever. They could be better. Yeah, there's things they could do to be better, and I can help them.
So is there always then a case of, let's say, reluctance to learn, or negligence on the part of a speaker not to be able to do it, rather than a natural ability to modulate your voice, for example, like you gave this example of being monotone, or modulate your voice, or not being able to people, I'm assuming they can control that, right? And they can learn that. So is it just them not wanting to, or is it just, I don't know, some people cannot do it, but they can still be speakers?
There are probably people out there that can't do it, that really don't grasp the concept of it. But I would say more, it's like someone saying they're tone deaf. Most people aren't. They can hear some tones. It just means they're not great at discerning it. And it's the same thing. And the training, the vocal training is very similar. Like I use similar techniques for performers, for speakers, entrepreneurs. The techniques are similar, but I find a lot of times they don't either A, want to learn, or B, they really have no desire to be up in front of people. They just aren't front people, what I call front people. You know?
Yeah,
there are those people that want to be in the front. They're frontmen, and that's what they're good at, and that's what they do. And then there are the people that prefer to be, you know, behind the scenes, running the microphones or running the technology or the lights. You know,
yeah, exactly. And there's nothing wrong with that. And I mean, you know, some people are great at writing, and there's so many avenues that you can actually gain authority and exposure and recognition. You know, you can be a fantastic writer, but not necessarily a wonderful speaker. And how many examples of that we have? Or, you know, some people, like you said, they're very technical, they're fantastic, brilliant, and they can do business like that. They don't necessarily need to show up and be those front people. They don't need to be in front of anybody to do their business. They just need to interact with that one-on-one person. But if you do want to be a speaker, and if you do want to hone in on that talent or the skills, or you want to explore if it's even for you, where can people find you, Julia?
Well, I'm all over social media. I do have one place that I can send people to, and they can get everything on me, and that is linktree.com/Julia Langley. If you go on there, you can find all of my social media handles as well as any upcoming activities. I have a song on Spotify that I recorded this past year, so you can get that. There's anything that's upcoming. I do master classes. I will have some trainings actually on speaking that will be coming up in the next couple of months that are open to the public, and they can go to my Linktree and find that information, sign up if they want to do that. And they can also, I'm welcome. I love to have chats with people. If anyone wants to talk to me about how they can get their speaking better, please feel free to book a call. My Calendly link is on there as well. So you can, all things Julia.
All things Julia. If you want a bit of Julia, that's where to go. And remember, guys, all the links are, as usual, put in the description of this episode, both on YouTube and on your favorite podcast platform, so it's easier for you to reach. No need to search for Julia all across the internet. It's there. Just click it. And if you do want to be a speaker, I do agree. Having a coach makes it so much easier, so much quicker, and so much more streamlined rather than doing it by yourself. And I'm speaking from experience, sadly, because I've tried doing it by myself. And it was a long and painful road of shaky hands and crying in my pillow. So don't cry in your pillow. Contact Julia in her link sheet.
Yeah, we'll get to go. We'll get that confidence up and really get your message clarified so you feel better about speaking your mind, who you are.
Exactly. Even if you don't want to be on the stage, it is going to be very, very beneficial for your business.
Well, and hey, you may need a job interview. Hey, we have to have jobs. We do job interviews all the time. That's speaking. Don't discount it. And
Absolutely.
then we may have a few moms out there that just want to make sure their kids know how to listen to them. They need authority at home. Listen, this applies.
I am listening. Yes.
So much of our life, right?
Absolutely.
I'm trying with my dog. He doesn't listen to me. So, but it works better on humans than it does animals.
There you go. So whatever you want to use it for, it's always good to learn how to conduct yourself verbally, as I say. It is also a part of marketing. So as a marketer, it's very close to my heart to always recommend speaking coaches, because I believe that's the best thing you can do for yourself, both from the terms of marketing, sales, visibility, authority, influence, which is my specialty, authority and influence online. And video is still the strongest thing you can do online to get the eyeballs and keep the eyeballs on yourself. So the way you get the eyeballs is just put yourself out there. The way you keep the eyeballs is you click Linktree for Julia. Yeah. All right, guys. Thank you so very much, Julia. Thank you so much for showing up in this episode. Of course, everybody who's coming back, thank you, thank you, thank you. I love you. Mwah. And if you're new here, thank you so much. I hope you love this episode as much as I loved making it for you. Julia has been amazing. Absolutely check her out. And remember to also love and subscribe and tap the notification bell on YouTube so that you never miss an episode. We're here with you every single week. It's me or my co-host Ian. And if you're listening on one of your favorite podcast platforms, please leave us a little review of what you thought about Julia's episode and all of her wonderful tips. All right, guys, I'll be seeing you next time. And next week, Ian is going to be with you with yet another guest. Julia, such a pleasure.
My pleasure was mine. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Bye, guys.